Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Perfectly Legal, written by RhoZie013. Champion Nudruk was furious. At least, that was what he was feeling now that the surprise and the confusion were wearing off. It had been a month of unpleasant surprises, and now that he knew exactly what the damned villain was planning, should have been good news, a time to take action. Instead, he couldn't sleep as his mind raced around in impotent fury. With a bone-deep sigh, he climbed from his simple straw pallet and adjusted his sackcloth robes to better ward off the late evening chill. He spared a longing glance at his ornate Templar armor, hanging on his armor rack in the corner of the simple cell. Somehow, even in the darkness, its gold and marble finish seemed to shimmer, to call out to him in his lord's name. Not today, old friend. There were a few about this hour, and it took no time at all to cross the large courtyard and enter the Order's main shrine to the God of Light and Law. Although he was alone with his thoughts, candles burned low, indicating the devout worshippers were always somewhere nearby. Slowly, Nidrug lowered himself to a meditative kneeling position to pray for guidance and reflect on recent events. It wasn't that rare for strangers to show up in the kingdom of Einturb, given that they bordered the very edge of the known world. Wanderers, monsters, and general strangeness was almost all there was out in the unknowable Badlands. It was why his deity had chosen this kingdom to host his warrior Templars' main fortress monastery, after all. About a month ago, a stranger dressed unusually had showed up in the smaller cities and requested entrance. Naturally, the guards had been wary and questioned his intent in detail, learning that he had traveled to seek knowledge from a small mage's college in the city. They allowed him passage and surreptitiously followed him to make sure that was where he went. The unknown stranger was good at his word, and made no fuss as the guard's report went. The first champion Nudrug knew of the stranger was when an urgent call for help arrived from the college. He instantly knew whatever it was would be serious. The temple's followers of light and the college's followers of mystery were, not exactly friends. To be invited into their grounds was almost unheard of. In full plate, with 4 others in his order in tow, Nidrug had a haste to confront whatever the damn mages had accidentally done, only to probably receive a placid and cooperative prisoner already in rune-inscribed chains. The stranger was human. It was rare for humans to be able to practice magic. They were the least magical talented race in the world. It only took one whispered word from the head mage to explain why he was bound. Necromancer. He had been preparing to behead the wretch then and there when the prisoner spoke up, calmly requesting to speak to the magistrate of the state. Off-put by the request, he had hesitated. Suspicious. This had to be a trap of some sort. No one would volunteer to be burnt alive instead of simply beheading. But law was law. Belatedly, Nudrug realized how close he had come to breaking the law. A Templar of the Light couldn't summarily execute anyone who was not an immediate threat, which the calm human wasn't. So far, he would take the necromancer straight there, under heavy guard and his personal watch the whole time. The court had been a rushed affair at first. No one was keen to delay a necromancer's true death. But there was a hitch. The human pointed out that while the necromancy was distasteful, it wasn't actually outright illegal in the kingdom of Einturb. And then the human had an excuse for everything under the sun and more. Yes, there was a major undead war in the kingdom's history, but those sorcerers were executed for attempting to overthrow the kingdom, not actually necromancy itself. Yes, desecrating the dead was a crime, but a crime committed against the body's living relatives. Reanimating unclaimed bodies and purchased bodies from families that could only afford a pauper's grave anyway was technically not illegal. Yes, you need to be formally recognized by the Mage Circle to practice sorcery and magic in the kingdom, but had been recognized and allowed entry to the local college, despite since being forcibly removed. On and on it went, until despite everyone's frustrations, the magistrate had the necromancer released. There was nothing the temple could do despite the wrongness of this action. So, at his orders, rotation of temples was set up to watch the scum wander my homelands, ready for the moment that he was a hair's breadth out of line. There would be no magistrate this time around, just a swift swing of the sword and the Templar's holy work done. It didn't take long to realize that there were other groups doing something similar. The necromancer almost had an entourage of guards, spies, and other observers for 2 weeks as he sauntered about the city as he did his business. Even the college spared no expense, having mages on hand to counter the human should he become nasty. But the other sabaton never dropped. The human was peaceful, if a little unnerving. Many citizens he tried to have some business with rejected him outright, not wanting his attention or that of his watchful, heavily armed entourage. Just when everyone was starting to adjust to his unwelcome presence, the necromancer did the least expecting thing of all. He opened a business, specifically a courier business. Overnight deliveries across the entire kingdom. What a ridiculous business idea. No one would want to work with a necromancer. No one would work for him. No one could cross the entire kingdom overnight. It would take 3 days border to border at least. And for another few days, so Nardrug's prediction seemed to be true. No one wanted anything to do with the human. Then a desperate caravan leader broke the taboo, desperate to meet his own deadlines. The wicked necromancer's plans became clear that night, as the undead could labor and travel without rest, and for an even better price than any living. Quickly, the competition was out of business or pushed out of town, and who would be fool enough to try and rob the undead? Local bandits soon left in search of easier pickings. Without bandits, what kind of traveler needed to hire a guard? The mercenary companies left the kingdom looking for work elsewhere, which left room for new businesses to start doing what little guard work remained. The new business was very successful too, and who wouldn't want guards that didn't sleep or rest or get distracted while on duty? The undead made perfect guards. There was even an option to pay a little extra for one that didn't smell. Not an option with living mercenaries. Champion Nardrug was furious, and the others of the Order felt the same way. Their other duties had not stopped, and they might not be able to protect the kingdom from whatever the Badlands threw at them if they always had to watch their backs, not to mention the manpower spent. He had requested an audience with the magistrate, and demanded that the dangerous necromancer be thrown out of the kingdom for interfering with so many other people's business. But the official had declined. Business was business, and competition was fair play. The fact that the magistrate had just bought a new estate and built it in a tenth of the time it usually took, from materials sourced at a cost of the tenth of what it usually would be needed to acquire, was besides the point. These new businesses were good for the kingdom. They will help keep the free market competitive. To make matters worse, last night the champion had learned that the scheming human had made a formal bid to replace the king's common soldiery with his own, through several business intermediaries, of course. That was why he was here, praying in the pre-dawn hours of the morning to his god of light and law. The dampness of the silent tears stained his strained composure. For the first time in his purposeful life, Nardrug the champion of the Order didn't know what to do. The champion of light and law had to uphold those virtues. Never before had those virtues been at odds. The monastery had stood its ground, halting any and all evil from the Badlands for centuries, and nothing in all of its history had faced a foe so cunning and deviant. Because the human necromancer was slowly taking over the kingdom, and it was all perfectly legal. End of story. This is a special thank you to the one, the only, the legendary Eric Hino, who has become the only Tier 6 patron. I just want to thank the T5 patrons and channel members: Bob the Dragon, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Estrella the Dreamer, Tryagain95, Pudic Yol, Meridian117, Olivia, Jordan Bucksbaum, Angry Marine, Albard and Gusta, and Barkey. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.